My guest today is Bobby Gray. Bobby is the founder of TEXITcoin. TEXITcoin, what is that? TEXITcoin, of course, it is a cryptocurrency for Texans, by Texans. We'll learn all about this today. Welcome to the show, Bobby.
Hi there, Andy. Thanks so much for having me today.
It is a pleasure. Let's do what we do at the beginning of the show, Bobby. It would be super cool if you could please introduce yourself. I would love to hear just a little of your personal and professional backstory. What have you been doing in the lead up to founding TEXITcoin?
Sure, of course. Well, I've been in the realm of honest money for a very long time. In 2008, I started my own currency, minted out of gold, silver, and copper coins. It's called the American Open Currency Standard, and it's my attempt to deal with the biggest problem the world is facing today, which is fake money. Dishonest currency, I think, is the root of all of the evil in the world today. And so I threw my hat in the ring back in 2008 to do something about it. In 2012, I did so well that I was able to testify in front of our United States government Congress about honest money, the parallel currencies, and the roadmap to monetary freedom. This was back before most people ever heard of things like Bitcoin. In 2017, I took one of the coins that I made long, long ago and turned it into a functional cold storage wallet as a tool that the cryptocurrency community could use to keep crypto safe offline where it can't get hacked and wouldn't go out of business, which was a big problem back then. And so here we are 7 years after that, I started TEXITcoin, which is the continuation of my life's work in the realm of honest money, now on a digital currency rocket ship instead of the gold and silver horse and buggy that I was riding for a very long time.
I love it. And yeah, you're exactly right. And Bobby, it's funny. There's, a certain, I don't know what you'd call it, maybe a subculture or a community. There's just, a political movement even, obviously has a lot of crossover with the libertarian movement. I'm talking about, people that are into this idea of sound money or just a different economic paradigm. A lot of them, of course, have traditionally been called what we would call gold bugs. But now,
Right.
of course, that has been, part of that movement is taken over by the Bitcoiners or cryptocurrency people. What is it about, I suppose, cryptocurrency that made you kind of make that leap to crypto as opposed to going, sticking your head in the sand, if you like, and
Right.
staying with the gold sound money
for a long time. Yeah. So it took a long time to make that transition. I would say the better part of 12 years. In 2012, the same year that I testified in US Congress, I created this coin, which you've probably seen a time or two. It's probably the most famous coin in the world today. It's given not just Bitcoin, but all things cryptocurrency, a physical face, a presence, a tangible, a tangible like way of understanding it. And so I knew about Bitcoin back in 2011, 2012, when I minted that commemorative coin that's become so famous. But I couldn't wrap my mind around the concept of digital currency being inherently valuable. And that, I think, is the thing that the gold bugs and the silver bugs really struggle with. The idea that, anything that is intangible can't be also valuable. Something that's going to hold as money for thousands of years has to have a physical form. If you can't hold it, you don't own it, kind of thinking. And so it took a long time to see that store of value doesn't necessarily mean tangible, doesn't mean that you can physically hold it. It just simply means that you can use it later to get something that you really want. And so when you're in the precious metals world, you've got this blinder on. You've got these blinders that, keep you on this very thin path. And it's only if and when you start to peel back those blinders when you say, well, money can be different things. And as we go into the digital age, obviously money is going to be something that can be inserted into a smartphone, and we can't put our gold and silver coins into our phones. So we've got to have something else. So it took a long time to come to understand that I was missing out on the real conversation. And as I'm riding my gold and silver horse and buggy, of course, the Bitcoin freight train goes flying by, linking in with things like Visa, MasterCard, so that you can spend Bitcoin at 54 million places around the globe. I mean, this is really store of value at its finest. You can use it to get the things that you want. So whether you're paying Bitcoin directly to a merchant or you're tapping to pay on a Visa debit card that's supplied by an exchange, that's really the connection between the store of value and the goods or the services that you really want. And so it took a long time to get that, but that's the piece that finally fell into place for me. And that's when I started
Well,
TEXITcoin.
I like it, Bobby, and I think listeners, a lot of listeners would have a similar story. I think if you say that it took you a long time, I don't think that's really true. You've been probably quicker than most to understand the potential and appeal of what is possible with digital money, and of course, being digital has its own advantages over physical gold. It just makes it that much easier to store,
So
send,
much
divide,
faster. Sure.
and so on. But
Of
I
course.
suppose, Bobby, shall we move to Texas? Well, not physically, but metaphorically, and
I was
in
going to
terms
say,
of the
I'm moving down to
conversation.
New Zealand. It sounds great down there. Let's go.
Hey, Texas sounds great to me. Give us
that's really
just
up to you. There's a lot of monetary theory that it lays the foundation for why I started TEXITcoin. And the biggest challenge that I've had as we've launched this project isn't necessarily to get people to understand TEXITcoin. It's to get them to understand the basics of cryptocurrency. And so if you and your audience are already quite familiar with those things, we can skip over all that stuff. But that's what really has been so important and valuable. What I did when I started this project is I went back to my community of gold and silver collectors and I said, hey guys, I think we've missed something. I think that we, missed out on these great opportunities to diversify and, cross that bridge between the world of tangible to intangible. And we've really cut ourselves off from the future of money. If you try to talk to a young person today about gold and silver, they could care less. My daughter's 19. She's not going out to buy a safe that she can fill up with gold and silver coins. Like, that's never going to happen for her. Her whole world exists on her phone. And so, you look at the typical demographic of a gold and silver coin collector, they're not interested in any way in digital currencies. And they've done it a particular way their whole entire lives. They're totally happy with that way. But at the same time, they're missing out on what is going to be the future of money. And so what I've been able to do is go back to them and say, look, we might have really misunderstood this. And by turning a blind eye to cryptocurrency and that whole conversation that is largely driven by memes and NFTs and funny stuff and scams and, hacks and all that stuff, we've missed out on quite possibly the most important financial technology that we've ever seen before in the history of mankind. I mean, really today, with this decentralized digital peer-to-peer currency concept that was given to us in 2008, we've got for the very first time the ability to take back control currency out of the hands of the banks. And that's a really profound thing, to remove the banker from the conversation of an exchange between two parties. That's what we have with cryptocurrency. Now, it's been dark webbed, it's been misused, it's been misunderstood, it's been used for goofy stuff, it's extremely volatile up and down. And all those things have distracted us from this core technology that I think has the ability to do what I was trying to accomplish with gold and silver, but 1,000 or 1,000,000 times more quickly. And so if you're already up to speed on all of that, then let's skip right over and jump into the next point.
Let's skip right over to Texas. So to begin with, Bobby, just for obviously, I don't know if you're a native Texan, you can tell us that, but for anyone, perhaps even outside of the US, we all have this idea of Texas. But tell us in your own words, what does Texas stand for? What is the spirit of Texas, and kind of how does that inform what you're trying to do with TEXITcoin?
Texas is where the American spirit is, in my opinion, really embodied. And if you're, pro red, white, and blue, if you like the ideas of freedom and liberty and property rights and all of those things, and then Texas is really where that spirit is alive and well. And so I like to call those things Americanism. There's no better place in the U.S. where you can really feel that spirit of Americanism than Texas. Texas has its own culture. It has its own power grid. We're getting our own stock exchange, from what I understand, for the first time ever off of Wall Street here in America. So there are a lot of things that make Texas unique. It's different in the conversation, and it's also the only U.S. state that actually started as its own country and joined the U.S. by treaty, as opposed to some sort of annexation. So it's different. And if you've ever been to Texas, you can feel that. Even in a place like Austin, which is very different. We say keep Austin weird. But the spirit of Texas, everything's bigger in Texas. Don't mess with Texas. All these things. We have a real Texas culture here. I actually came to Texas in 2004, right after I started a family. out of Philadelphia. I couldn't wait to get out of the Northeast. I came to Texas, set up my life. So I've been here now more than 20 years with a 7-year stopover in Southeast Asia. But Texas has a feeling that you won't get anywhere else in the U.S. Another thing that's really critical about Texas, it's really the home of the energy conversation in America as well. And that matters, obviously, because energy is a critical component of proof of work cryptocurrency. And so, being in Texas, being a Texan, being at the center of the energy, conversation here in America, it makes this region incredibly unique and serendipitous to set up a pro-America, USA type of cryptocurrency. And so that's the Texas story in a nutshell.
Yeah, it makes sense. And, I don't know if you want to get too much into the political side of things, but one thing that is obvious kind of from the outside is that, obviously the US, the world at large is, politically fragmented at the moment from, I guess extremes on both sides. And Texas is one of those states that has always, as you've articulated, Bobby, really represented, the kind of purest ideals of what it is to be an American. And
That's
it
right.
feels like if there was one state that was going to try and do something different, if you like, from the other states in America, who knows if it would really happen or not. But, is that kind of a realistic proposition? Is that something you talk about? And is that something that kind of is relevant to what you're trying to do with Texit?
It is realistic, and it was something that we really talked about a year and a half ago. A year and a half ago, I think most Texans were looking for the exit. I think that most Texans, just according to polls and signature drives, were extremely dissatisfied with the relationship with the federal government. And we started to see the writing on the wall, and we started to see actions out of the Texas government that looked like it was paving the way for an exit. And so that was an incredibly popular thing to talk about back in the early days of TEXITcoin, of course. We were saying things like, it's time for a national divorce. We've got a crisis on the border. Really, the big question going around Texas was, if we weren't a U.S. state today under the previous administration's climate, would we choose to join the United States? And the answer was a resounding no. Across the board, it's like, well, if we were independent today, I don't think that we would join up. And so with the new administration taking office, that conversation has certainly shifted quite a bit. And so we've worked on our message as well, where we're not trying to leave the United States. We're trying to create an honest currency in a place that, if something goes terribly wrong, would be the place where we want to have as a stronghold of freedom and liberty and those American principles. And so we don't know what the future is going to bring. We know that Texans are ever vigilant. We're watching out. We're cautious. We're optimistic. And we know that every empire in the history of mankind has always come to, an end. So it's just a matter of time. Maybe that happens in our lifetime. Maybe it doesn't. But if we can leave behind an honest currency for the people of Texas to use, whatever the future brings for us, then we've left something positive behind for our children. And that's really the goal, to take those principles of Americanism, to build them into our currency. And that way, whatever the future brings, we don't have the bankers knocking on our door saying, hey, you guys are your own country, and here's the currency that you're going to be forced to use. We just say, we've got an alternative. Our alternative is fast. It's easy. It's inexpensive. We like it. It's here. It's made by us. It's made for Texans, and we're just fine how we are today. So thank you very much, but no thanks. So that's the goal today, given the current political winds that have shifted quite a bit, both in terms of that feeling of Americanism across the country, but also in terms of the engagement of cryptocurrency, which has been a really great thing for us as well. I mean, we've got a bit of a wild west of crypto times coming back into, the conversation here in the United States, which has been very important for us as we begin and continue to build successfully this cryptocurrency, which is kind of the one that the new administration is talking about. They just haven't said it by name yet.
Yes, indeed. Very well said, Bobby. So you mentioned before the energy resources in
Sure.
Texas, and it seems like, just correct me if I'm wrong, but am I right in saying that the idea with TEXITcoin is that it is effectively exclusively mined in Texas for Texans. Maybe you want to expand beyond that, but just explain a little bit in terms of what the
Yeah.
vision is there with the mining.
Well, rule number one for us is that we're exclusively building our mining assets, the infrastructure that secures and safeguards the network that processes the transactions. We're exclusively building that in Texas. And I think that's the thing that makes us different from everything else that's out there. I don't know of any other crypto that's mineable, proof of work crypto, that has a geographic limitation on where it can actually be mined. So we're using Texas land, we're using Texas power, we're using Texas workforce. So those things are all a critical foundational component of what gives us our unique identity as we go out into the crypto community and ask them to respect what we're doing and then trade with us. You know, if you look at where most Bitcoin is mined today, most of it's overseas. And so, you know, let the overseas foreign nations and the big banks and the megacorps have Bitcoin in that infrastructure, and we'll build something here that's based on our values, and then let's trade. You know, there's a great opportunity for us to build here and trade everywhere.
Yep. And so how are you going in terms of, I suppose, getting awareness, getting adoption, getting people to join the network? Where are we on that journey, Bobby?
We're off to a great start. We're actually about 56 weeks so far into mine building. We are just over 1% of our goal. So the goal is to build a 100 million mega hash mine. And that number wasn't pulled out of thin air. That was a number that was built with experts saying, how big of a mine do we need to really establish for two things? One, for the community to take us seriously, but at the same time to not be so large that they're, you know, writing terrible articles about how we're eating up all the world's energy. You know, I don't know what the current estimates are, but I've heard that the Bitcoin infrastructure may be 10,000 or more times bigger than what it really needs to be in terms of energy consumption and computational resources to process the transactions that are taking place on the Bitcoin network. And feel free to correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I'm thinking that it's incredibly inefficient. I don't know if there's any kind of mechanism that prevents that from going any further in the wrong direction, but we want to build something that's big, decentralized, reliable, but not so big that we're becoming inefficient. And so the number that was worked out was 100 million megahash, about 35 megawatts of power consumption. And so it's a sizable chunk. It's not the biggest in the world, but we do plan on being one of the biggest decentralized mineable cryptocurrencies across the state. So we want to be gigantic. We want to be large enough for the community, the cryptocurrency community, to see what we're doing. And the way that we do that through our permissioned network strategy is by merge mining Litecoin and eventually Dogecoin as well. And so we're expecting to be like the third largest miner of Litecoin Doge, taking about 10% of the Litecoin Doge blocks and block rewards and transaction fees. And if that doesn't get us into the center of the crypto conversation, honestly, I don't know what could. But that is the strategy. We're just over 1% of the way there today, and we're building it through a kind of an affiliate marketing system. Love it or hate it, it works incredibly well to do what we're doing. It's not the first time it's been done, but I do think that it's the first time that it's been done successfully, transparently, and on a unique coin. And so our challenge isn't necessarily to acquire the mining infrastructure or to find the people or to, you know, bring the cash in. Our challenge is to get a community of support large enough for TEXITcoin for it to have a real world market value. And so today we're on DexTrade, we're on Bitmart. And so eventually we want to be on larger and larger exchanges. It's going to take some time to get there, but I think we're off to a really great start. The momentum is behind us. We've got billboards up all over the DFW area. We've got radio advertisements going. We've got billboards now inside of the Austin, Texas airport. So the word is starting to get out about TEXITcoin. And I'd like to think of it as one of the few exciting things in the cryptocurrency space that people can look at and say, hey, okay, this is kind of like a return to Bitcoin's original vision, you know, digital, decentralized, peer-to-peer currency. We're the guys out there that are coming at this conversation from a background in honest money and saying, we've got this great technology. It was given to us and we let it slip through our fingers. And so now let's just get in this little time machine here and go back to, you know, the early days of when Bitcoin was cheap, pick up where it left off and carry that torch forward on the currency side. And so that conversation is incredibly engaging. Instead of joining the Bitcoin roller coaster and watching the price go up and down and not really having any ability to affect the price, there's nothing really that you can do. You're more of a passive participant as the banks and the ETFs and all these other, big money players are driving the price in one direction or another based on political changes or tariffs or trade agreements or whatever it is that drives the markets these days. It's kind of disenchanting to see that something that's so great, you've got no ability to make an impact in it. And that's what TEXITcoin changes. And that's what's bringing people, I think, into our community.
Fascinating, Bobby. And yeah, so I suppose if that must mean that TEXITcoin shares the script algorithm that
right.
that Litecoin uses as well. So and again, that would really would make TEXITcoin a proof of work cryptocurrency that is fast, cheap, easy to send, easy to mine. All those good things that you've talked about. So is there anything else about the tokenomics? Is there a limited supply? There must be like some kind of halving schedule. There's a million ways to do this. How
you would normally expect from a coin that's basically a clone of Litecoin at the beginning is what we have. So we've got a 353 million coin supply that'll be mined over 138 years, something like a 695,000 block halving schedule. And so the same basic tokenomics that you would expect from any large coin is the same thing that we've got. But what's really driving the interest and the value isn't necessarily the scarcity, it's the usability and what comes next as we begin to lay this foundation for the mining and the proof of work. It's like, okay, we've got this network now, let's build on top of it. And that's really where my background in community currencies shines, because now we're talking to small Texas towns and saying, look, guys, we've got the ability to redo the stablecoin concept, but on a local basis. So if we want to build a stablecoin community currency just for a specific town, we can do that, have the local banker hold on to the cash that's backing up the currency that's circulating in town. We get to trade as much as we want almost for free with each other. And the only thing that's different about this than any other type of stablecoin that's out there is we're building this one on the TXC blockchain. We're building it on the Made in America, built exclusively in Texas blockchain. And so that's really what we want to have begin to create the value for it as we stair step our way up into the global crypto conversation.
And how are you going in terms of making? I know I've mentioned this before, but what is the kind of general attitude in Texas towards a cryptocurrency? Is it an uphill battle fighting that kind of education war, or are people open to it? I know these things take time, and of course it's the younger generation that are more open to new ideas. But I don't know.
Very surprised. So I wouldn't say wide open, but definitely one step below that, because a couple things. First of all, the new administration has definitely opened up a lot of minds towards cryptocurrency. And I would say that if the new administration came in and was totally anti-crypto, it would be a very different challenge for us today. So people are curious, even guys that are 50, 60, 70 years old, traditional guys that you'd find, in gold and silver collecting and investing. They're saying, okay, there's something here. Obviously, we need to begin to pay attention to it. We're not too old. We're still here. We can get off the sidelines and begin that education component. And so that's the market that we're looking for. That's the community that we're engaging. People that traditionally wouldn't understand anything about it. And we're saying, look, let's hold hands. Let's get into this together. If we dig our heels into the ground today and we refuse to acknowledge the digital future that's coming, our way via money, then we're going to miss it. And if we miss it, we're not going to have the ability to profit from it. And what's worse is that we are going to get dragged into it later, kicking and screaming regardless. So we might as well engage it now, get in as early as we can. I mean, think about it. When the US dollar came out in 1913, it took 20 years and an executive order to get the dollar to catch on. And so still, 15, 16, 17 years into the crypto conversation, we've got a long way to go. And so it's still early in that conversation. And so people that you would never have imagined being willing to listen to the story are coming out and they're saying, okay, let's talk. Tell me what I missed. How do I get in? What's an easy way to get started? And that's another place that our product comes into play, because, when you're talking about wallets and treasures and ledgers and exchanges, you get into that whole realm of digital risk. And I look at it and I say, well, geez, in 2017, we started making these cold storage coins. It's a really easy tool so that, grandpa can load up some crypto on his coin. He can put it in his safe. And now he's got this bridge between these two very different worlds of physical and digital that he doesn't have to worry about anymore. If he can keep his safe, from getting stolen and broken into, then he's got a fighting chance of participating in the cryptocurrency conversation without that digital risk nightmare kind of always over his head. And so it's been very well received. Surely, obviously, there are people out there that say, no way, over my dead body, my money's going to be tangible. It's going to be in my hand. If I can't hold it, I don't own it. I don't want any part of it. Too many scams, too many sleazy things out there, and not getting involved. And we say, okay, that's all right. That's a totally fair thing. That I was that guy for a very long time, so I can identify quite clearly with that mindset. So there are still some of them out there. But I would say that it's definitely the conversation is much more well received today, thanks to the new administration coming in and being much more open-minded towards cryptocurrency.
Yes, indeed, very much the case. So in that case, Bobby, for people who are in or around Texas and they're curious, maybe they even have a business, maybe they want to look at how they can get involved on the mining side, what is the best way for people to do so? What should they do? Where should they go?
Well, the website TEXITcoin.org is the place to get started. There are two ways that you can participate in our community. One is you can buy a handful of TEXITcoin off of an exchange. Unfortunately, we're not on like Coinbase yet or one of the big American exchanges. So it's a little bit of a challenge to figure out exactly where to go to get it and how to get your hands on it. Our team at the office tries to make that a little easier for most people by selling the preloaded cold storage wallets. The other thing is the mining opportunity, and it's not for everybody, but if you want to have a little bit of a stake in securing what we would like to think of as the future of money in Texas, then discover the mining TEXITcoin opportunity at minetxc.com. And over there, you'll learn more about, what it takes to get started, what it costs, and then what the risks and the rewards are if we're successful and able to establish TEXITcoin as a well-respected top 100 crypto, which is the goal.
Absolutely. And what about for people outside of Texas? Is there a way for them to be involved as well, Bobby?
Sure, of course. Well, we want to trade with everyone. So anybody anywhere around the world is able to pick up TEXITcoin on the open market. Bitmart is probably the best place to find it if you're curious about it and in some part of the world that actually allows Americans to come and trade on your platform, which is easier said than done these days, quite unfortunately still. But our mining program is actually open to anybody in America, and we have a 10% reserved cap on foreign investment in the mine. And the reason for that is because we want to make sure that most of the mine is owned by Americans and Texans, but at the same time, we want to give our trade partners around the world a vested interest in our success too. If we block them completely out from being able to participate in mining TEXITcoin, then it's a little bit arrogant to expect them to want to trade with us later. So we invite them to participate. We have a 10% cap on anybody around the world. We've got a great community in Australia, a great community in New Zealand that's come together to mine TEXITcoin as well. And so our message is really for anyone. It's, alliances with none, trade with all. Same thing as the founders of our country had established long ago.
I like it. All right. Well, those links are in the show notes, listeners. But yeah, minetxc.com and TEXITcoin.org. Bobby, it is time to finish off the show. We do that, of course, by running you through the very famous Crypto Conversation Hot Take Round. Are you up for it?
I don't know what it is, but take us away. I'm excited to find out the hard way.
Don't worry, Bobby. There's nothing to worry about. I'm just going to run some questions at you, and I just want you to give me your honest answers, hot take style. Question one for you is, where would you say that you sit on the Bitcoin maximalist to multi-chain opportunist spectrum?
Ooh, I don't know. We're not real well received by the maximalists. They say we don't need any more. Bitcoin is the only one. That's all we ever need. And I think that they're probably right if Bitcoin was faster and cheaper to use. But because that's not the case today, we've got TEXITcoin and a lot of other great alternatives.
Yeah, makes sense. What would you say then, Bobby, is your firmest conviction crypto opinion?
I think that crypto is the greatest and most honest and perfect form of money that planet Earth has ever seen. It's more honest than gold and silver. I have no idea how many ounces of gold there are in the world. I don't know if there's a meteor full of silver sitting in the crust somewhere that's yet to be discovered. I know exactly how many Bitcoin will ever be made. I know where they go. I know who gets them. I know what you have to do to get them. As far as a medium of exchange, a unit of account, and a store of value, crypto is absolutely flawless. And I'm firm in the conviction that it's the most perfect form of money on planet Earth.
I love it. So well said. Bobby, Bill Gates famously said that we tend to overestimate what we can accomplish in 2 years and underestimate what we can accomplish in 10. 10 years is a long time. But look, sound money in Texas, TEXITcoin, what does it look like in 10 years' time?
In 10 years, we're there. We're the leading currency. We've taken the banks and the credit cards and the processors and the merchant service companies out of the loop. We're letting merchants and businesses do business directly with each other without the banks taking the 3% off the top every time. And we've got currency that's by the people, for the people. 10 years is longer than we need, but surely more than enough time to accomplish that goal.
Yes, indeed. That is exactly right. And it brings us really to the final question, which is, what is your favorite science fiction, book, film, or a TV show?
Oh, that's easy. Speaker for the Dead from Orson Scott Card. If you're familiar with the Ender's Game series.
Yes.
Speaker for the Dead by far.
There you go. I'm not familiar with that particular title, but yeah, Ender's Game I am aware of.
Ender's Game was the prequel, essentially. The book that Orson Scott Card really wanted to write was Speaker for the Dead. But he's trying to introduce this incredibly, what's the word I'm looking for? This incredible character with Ender. And so they had to create, the story of Ender's Game to let you know why he was such a great guy.
Awesome. I like it. Yeah, I remember Ender's Game was the military sci-fi novel by Orson Scott Card, 1985. Yeah, and followed a child prodigy trained through intense military simulations to combat the alien species known as the Formics. Yes, indeed.
That's right. That's right. So the next one in the series is Speaker for the Dead, which is my favorite.
Right. There you go. Speaker for the Dead. Thank you, Bobby. This was a lot of fun. Thank you for spending some time with us today and telling us all about TEXITcoin. Just to close it out, again, please do tell people where they can go to keep up to date with the TEXITcoin movement, sound money in a cryptocurrency form for Texans, by Texans. Yeah, what should people do? Where should they go? And shout out your socials.
Check it out at texitcoin.org. If you'd like to learn more about the mining program, that's minetxt.com. I don't know what our socials are. I'm not too involved in that, but I'm guessing we have them, and you can track them down out there. Also, check out cold storage coins. That's the product that we use to make it easy for people to physically hold digital assets in the palm of their hand where they can't get hacked and won't go out of business.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Bobby. All the best, and bye for now.
Thanks, Andy.